Yes, we're back, and that was Ashake and Tiwa Savage. You don't want to know the conversation behind there a few minutes ago, but yes, lovely video by all standards. Let's move straight into our conversation this morning. We're talking the rise of podcasts. Now, let's put some attention on this because this is very interesting. It will surprise you that you didn't even know that you were enjoying certain podcasts. You didn't even know that it was a podcast you were enjoying, but one way or the other, it's gotten you glued to it. Now, this morning we're talking on how a new wave of content creators are starting a new industry using their personal experiences and people of common interest to be making huge income and also improving the creative economy. And this morning I'm here with the buffet. Okay, and when I say I'm here with the buffet, we get to choose, from people who lead this industry or who are very heavily engaged in this industry of podcasts. And I have my guests live in the studio with me, except Cryril. Get a shot first. Get a shot first, and then we can take the rest on. But, lady and gentlemen, welcome. So let me allow each person to introduce himself and herself, and then tell us what you do, the space you play in. Just to have a quick background into yourself as well. So let me start off with the president on my right.
Okay, my name is Joseph Nti, and I'm the host of the Sincerely Accra podcast.
Sincerely Accra.
Yes.
Okay, we'll be coming into it in a bit. Yeah.
Yes, that's hosted by the GCR network. Yeah, and that's my boss.
JCR network.
GCR.
Oh, GCR.
The Gold Coast Report. Yeah.
Oh. Okay, interesting. Boss.
He says boss. My name is Cryril. I run GCR with my partner Donald, and essentially we function as a podcast network. So we have a bunch of different podcast shows on our network, and that's what we do.
Interesting. Okay, so we have a couple in the studio. I like that. Thank you. And
hi, I'm Zoo. And
Zulu.
Zoo.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have a podcast with Afi here.
Okay.
It's called Staybyplan.
We met already, have we?
Yes, I feel like we met before.
Kuzo.
Wait, were you at the YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, you. Do you know where we met? In the washroom.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so I was watching your face and I'm like, no, I think I know you from somewhere. Yeah, I was trying to. Yeah, we met in the wash. Am I lying?
No, you're not.
See, we met in the washroom. No, I'm just
It
not
was
just by
like
the way.
a normal meetup in the washroom. nothing
Yes.
special.
We never connected again since then.
I mean, Faith has it that we are here today. So
Exactly.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Cyril, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm the resident victim. I'm the in-house victim.
Wow. Anyway, you're welcome to our studios.
Thank you.
I mean, we've all one way or the other been plugged into podcasts. I mean, what we are doing here even is a podcast. But when we share it on those platforms where people can go and listen to and get entertained. But let's get deeper into what your content or what your platforms or what you do exactly is about. So let's talk about the
Sincerely Accra.
Sincerely Accra and what it is.
All right, so the Sincerely Accra podcast is essentially driven by Vox Pops and in-studio interviews.
Okay.
So with the Vox Pops, we go out into town, just ask people different questions, especially things affecting millennial and Gen Z living. Young people living in Accra, what it's like. And then we played on the episode. I give my opinions, and then we also have a segment where we ask people to send in listener letters, and I advise people. Apparently, I give good advice, but yeah,
Questionable.
and then the other one is when we get guests to come into the studio and we interview them. We've had Efia on. We've had Junior from Home Sweet Home, who is like a whole grown up now.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
One time we do people interest stories, so we've interviewed bouncers. Nightlife. We did that last December.
Who's topping your chart on the bounce? Is it FM?
No, I didn't get FM. We got one person from Front and one person from the place where it's all the biggest. Tantra. Yes.
Tantra, yeah.
So we've done a couple of interviews and stuff. So that's how it operates. It comes out every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
On
Okay.
On Mondays. And then the week that it doesn't come out, we have a Twitter space to discuss the last episode.
Is it difficult putting it together? Hence the reason why you do it every 2 weeks?
Yes. And it's also because, everyone involved in it has
Other
side
things.
jobs and other jobs. Yeah, so it is. We need a time to put it together.
I'm going to be asking you if this can't be a main job. It's a side chick for now, but
It can.
it can.
I think it can.
We'll touch on the revenues, opportunities in there. So how long have you been running this podcast?
5 years.
5 years.
Yes. We started in 2017.
2017. podcasts were not
Listen,
really.
People used to, you know how when you get your iPhone and you want to make space, people delete the podcast app.
Yes.
Because nobody was
true.
Yeah.
So when we started, Cyril and I had to tell people, oh, don't delete it or like re-download it, because podcasting, nobody cared for that app. Yeah, so
Wow, 5 years. And what made you decide that, look, of all the things we can do in 2017, let's go for a podcast?
Okay, so a number of things. I had just listened to this podcast called Cryril.
Cryril?
Cryril.
Serial.
Cryril. You know this guy that was wrongfully accused of a murder?
He's watching his
I know it's not serial. No, it's not. Yeah, and so I already liked the idea because I listened to it and it was very nice. And then I got invited to be on a podcast that was on the network called Free Your Mind. So after that, my friend and I, who co-created the podcast, I spoke to him. I said, I think we can start a podcast and we can, go with these guys because they're a network. They seem organized and everything. So we sent an email, and yeah, they liked our idea.
Wow.
And then we just started. The first thing we did didn't work out, so we had to re-strategize because Ghanaians are not very honest people when you are asking them to give their honest opinions. So now we had to, because at first we were doing something else. And then now we had to come back to the Vox Pops with anonymity. So nobody knows who you are, don't say your name. And it's usually like during nightlife. So people have had a few drinks. They are more willing to speak to you. Yeah.
Let me ask you, what drove you to choose, this particular area of topic or type of podcast, to do? Did you have any sort of research done to find which one would have the most human interest stories that you can share? Or did you feel like it was just, hey, let's just try this?
I think, so for GCR, they started 5 years ago. We started about 6 years ago. So we had been running a full year before Sincerely Accra came in the picture. We started GCR because my partner and I, Donald, we're huge fans of podcasting, and we figured we had the opportunity to start that in Ghana. So it was essentially became our weekend activity. We reached out to friends, and everybody we reached out to actually showed up. So we kind of had the interesting challenge of starting with 3 shows versus the one show we thought we needed to start with. So we started as a network because everybody said yes, and it didn't make sense to tell people you couldn't do it. So we sort of essentially learned on the job. So starting from just supremely passionate about what we are doing and then getting the skills and now being essentially professionals in this space that we are carving out. Now, Kwame is the co-creator for Sincerely Accra, a friend, shout out Motown. He reached out with, he introduced this idea. We spoke about it, and then we loved the direction they were going because up until that point, most of the shows on our network were network created. And at this point, we're keen to see what collaboration with other people look like, because one thing we recognize about the space is that GCR are very keen on collaboration. We don't own all the good ideas. There are other people with amazing ideas out there who may not have the infrastructure or the systems in place to get a podcast up and running. So Sincerely Accra became that test case. What does it look like if we partner with people who just sound amazing? We like their work ethic, we like what they're about, and we work together and see what happens. And 5 years down the line, these guys are the #1 podcast in Ghana, and it's just been an amazing journey so far. So
wow,
that's been us. Yeah.
Please, even before we continue, can we have a round of applause before I tell you what the applause is for? Because today, Cryril just woke up to some good news. Let's touch on that again.
He was sharing that
don't
backstage,
like
so now he's going like.
This is great news. This is a big deal. That is worth talking about.
I mean, I'm the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences, so it's basically audio work, everything. There's a podcast that I work on called the Africa Whisperer, hosted by Lee Kasumba, and we got nominated as one of the outstanding African voice content as well.
So you see,
that's
great. Yeah.
And it's just coincidence that the universe chose today to have the conversation. So the vibes, the blessings to everybody. Because I mess with all of your stuff, and I know what it takes to get a good podcast, and I see what you're doing. But I want to know from Cyril.
Yeah.
I rarely mention my own name.
It feels weird. I know.
Oh wait,
I want to know from Cyril, everybody wanted to do a podcast. What was the genius idea of going with, let me be an aggregator? I mean, you touched on it saying that, the ideas are not all in one head, blah, blah, blah. But what's it like actually building the network, bringing on board different content styles, scheduling it, making sure everything is okay? And how do you want to capitalize on all these properties that are under the GCR?
I think there's probably a fair bit that has to do with personality, and I think naturally myself and Donald, who I run GCR with, we do like reaching out. We do like working with people. So in terms of, hey Jay, I heard you speak to this issue. I think there's a possibility of us working on longer form content, podcasting. Let's have a conversation. That's very easy for us. So that made it a bit easy in terms of working with people. Thankfully, our admin skills have grown. We started with a bit, but like he mentioned, there's scheduling, there's multiple personalities, which you can imagine. And Joseph said, this isn't a full-time gig. So honestly, what we are asking from people is give us maximum effort for something that we aren't paying you for. And we are building together, and we believe we can monetize at XXX future dates. That's a lot. And Ghana does have its struggles and challenges. Yeah. Thankfully, when these conversations come up, we are able to, honestly, it's just be honest with people as to what our goals are, what we see in terms of assessment, the space growing. And Cryril winning the award, Joseph Sincerely Accra, Kwame Asante winning the award, the space getting recognition. We do have Afi, shout out for your mind alarm, also going out doing her own thing. It kind of makes sense because we can see the offshoots, we can see the growth in the space, and it's becoming a thing. And that's amazing to see.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I like that. Zoo, let me come to you about what you do. I mean, now he's mentioning Sincerely Accra. Yeah, Sincerely Accra. I don't know why Sincerely yours just kept on rolling. Yeah, Sincerely Accra. Let's talk about what you do as well, and let's get deeper into it.
Yeah, so what we do is we are Staybyplan, the podcast.
Staybyplan.
Yes, obviously derived from Accra Staybyplan, the term that we own.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So we dropped Accra. It's just too long for usernames. It doesn't work. So Staybyplan Pod, we have guests most of the time. I think only 2 episodes have no guests so far. We have guests all the time. We talk about different things. We talk to people from different areas in Accra, different fields. We've spoken to musicians, bankers, Uber drivers, everybody.
What's the purpose of talking to all these people, and what do you talk about?
Yeah, just to see how everybody's handling Accra, because as he said, Accra is insane, especially now. It's insane. Just getting by every day is crazy. So we just talk to people. How's it been for you? How did you get to this point? We've had guests like Kwesi Arthur. We've had Joey B. We've had who have you had? Talkative Mom. We've had just people from different walks of life. Just to get their perspective on Accra and see how it is. You know what I mean? So that's how it works for us.
Is it intentional to focus on Accra?
Yeah, because that's what we know. That's where we've grown up. This is our space. We want to have the podcast in a space where we are familiar with what's going on, and then eventually from there we can branch out to other cities, other countries. Yeah.
Just because of your background, I am told a little bit is whispering into my mind in my ear about being able to. You have a platform that aggregates the numbers, and you talk about in terms of the patronage of podcasts, what has it been so far? Like when you look at the numbers and the people who are listening, is it encouraging as compared to the 30 million Ghanaians that we have? Are we?
Oh, I mean, we definitely don't have 30 million Ghanaians listening to it, but just even from when we started, we've been doing it for a year and a half, so we are still kind of compared to our OGs here.
Yeah.
We're still kind of new in the
so
game. You know what I mean? So yeah, just even seeing the numbers from day one compared to now, I'm just like, I can't believe it. You know what I mean? It's insane.
I'm interested in finding who is listening to us. I mean, not in here. I mean, to the content, demographics, location, territories.
Yeah.
Who's listening to these podcasts that we generate from Accra, Ghana, to be specific?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, for me, in the last 2 years, given how big the show has become, I always run into people who tell me they listen, and it's from, uni, 20-year-old to I've met a 40-year-old woman who listens to the podcast. So, and what I also know is a lot of Ghanaians living abroad listen to it because they say it reminds them of Ghana, when they miss home. Because, our podcast, I mix Ga and Tree. My pidgin is terrible, but I try. And Kwame puts in a lot of Ghanaian. It's really heavily Ghanaian music, especially the nostalgic era of the 2000s. So that's where we play. So, and we use a lot of sound bites from popular culture. So yeah, it ranges from Gen Z straight up to 40 something.
What does it take in creating yours, Staybyplan?
With respect.
What goes into creating this? Is it difficult? Is it must you be very strategic on what you discuss? Considering what is probably trending or what is of interest to people, or it's just today let's just vibe. Let's just talk about.
So we've tried doing just vibes before, and then we had like a very bad episode. So for us, we try as much as possible to make sure we have an outline, but then we play around the outline most of the time. So a typical episode, like Joseph as well, we do ours every other week. We release 2 episodes in a month, but sometimes we record earlier depending on how busy the month is. But like you're saying, that whole ensuring that you're not talking about something this week and then next week is not relevant anymore is also present. So you have to be strategic with the time you record and then the kind of things you're talking about on the podcast as well.
Cyril, I don't know, but I've heard you all talk about, they've all spoken about the times they release it. Now, considering the number of things that are on social media that give people so much attention, are these numbers, the rate of release enough to be able to make the statement that, I don't know, that...
And also the topics.
I'm this is just probably to everyone.
What determines, what's a hot topic? Do you determine it like in-house, that this is what we want to go with and see if people resonate with it, or are you feeding into the whatever noise is out there and trying to pick out a salient point that you can actually flesh out?
I think for us it's a bit of both. But I think it's definitely more in-house than what is happening out there. So for us, as much as possible, we try to have conversations that are unique and people wouldn't have otherwise heard on a normal day. Because, not to bash radio stations, but sometimes when they're interviewing people, like the questions are always the same, like, hey, we heard you are dating this person, we heard you are doing this.
We don't do that here, so
yeah, exactly. So for example, when we
had a heated debate about this here yesterday.
I saw that.
Yeah.
So, for example, when we're talking to someone like Kwesi Arthur, we asked him, like, what was the struggle like? And now that you are famous, do you have, like, imposter syndrome that, Charlie, I'm supposed to be in Temao, and I'm now balling in LA and stuff. So, we try and ask the questions that, like, the everyday Ghanaian will want to ask these people. So that at least there's this interest that is pegged up in the people. So, that's our drive.
Transitioning from podcast, I would say, in the same media space, you have Twitter Spaces. Is Clubhouse still alive?
It's dead. It sure is.
It's dead.
I started Clubhouse.
Okay,
Jay, this morning I heard
what did you eat before you started?
It started. They don't
believe it. They don't believe it.
all before 40.
All before 40. Challenge, genius move. So Clubhouse is dead, eh?
I mean, essentially, everybody copied their audio feature because Twitter Spaces has it, Discord has it, Microsoft has it. Everybody copied it, essentially.
I think if WhatsApp introduced it,
they suffered the Skype fate.
Yep.
That's true.
Yeah, Skype was dancing around and Zoom came.
Yeah,
Same thing for Clubhouse. Oh man. So anyway, so with all these things, right? Like people going on live, having conversations, interactivity is on the rise.
Yeah.
And then here you are putting out content that's twice
Every 2 weeks.
Twice a month. So in that month, only God knows how many spaces, everything, blah, blah, blah. Do you have any plans or do you see any dynamics in your podcasting where you kind of tie into the ongoing conversation? As much as you have your prime conversations you want to focus on, do you have any plans that see you, or any strategy in mind that ties you into the ongoing conversations?
Okay, so just like Afi mentioned, we do a bit of both. Definitely, before we have a season model. So before the season starts, I sit with Kwame and we look at all the possible things we can talk about, and then we also give room for things that can happen. You know, for us, because we use popular sound bites and things like that, even if the conversation is not something that's current, the current sound bites and things will keep it fresh because we also pre-record. But that's why we're also getting into things like Twitter Space, because a lot of people always say, oh, make it weekly, but it's impossible. So we do Twitter Space, and then now we also started on Instagram, and we try to do, we do this thing called The Way In. So anytime I go to an event or whatever, I ask random questions, and I get people's opinion on camera, and I put it on the story. So, I mean, even though we come out every 2 weeks, in between our release, you are getting content from us in studio, things like that, just to keep it going, yeah.
What's the feedback?
the feedback. Our Instagram is doing
comparatively, like, so your podcast is twice a month. You know what that feedback is like, but you're also going out way in people's faces with the cam. There's a Twitter space, blah blah blah. What do you say is more responsive?
The engagement is actually very good, especially with the Instagram. You know, Twitter is on and off. Yeah. Twitter is very difficult to track. We actually blew up on Twitter. Twitter is what helped us get the numbers, and we just started on Instagram this year, and it's doing well. We get a lot of comments because, you know, it's people, you're asking really interesting questions and people are giving answers. When we also get invited to events, I do, you know, a reel or whatever, put it out there. So I think it's very responsive. For me, I meet people every day. I was telling somebody, right now at this point in my life, every day I meet somebody that says, "Oh, hi, I listen to your podcast." Blah, blah, blah. So that's like in-person feedback. Online too, you get feedback. Yeah, and then we also have our numbers from our episodes that shows that people are listening.
I wanted to touch on, you know, some of the challenges that are that you face in this podcast space. Let's discuss that real quick. I just want to have a very fair idea. Then we can look at the opportunities that are available. You know, what are some of the realistic challenges that are staring at you in your face in production, marketing, promoting, creating? You know, the very realistic ones.
Wait, what are unrealistic challenges?
Well, I'll tell you. I was going to say, but I said, let me just hold on with it. I'll tell you.
Number one is money.
Money.
That's the root of all the evil that we are going through as podcasters. Yeah, honestly, that's where everything starts from. Because if just to have a podcast, you probably would need people to help you. It can't just be the two of us. Like, when we started, it was just the two of us. We had help, but if you don't have money to pay people who don't necessarily believe in your dream, then it's like, why are we here? You know, they don't really want to help. So number one is money. And obviously when you start a podcast, you're starting from zero listenership. And it's like, why should I give you money? You don't have any listeners yet. You know what I mean? So building up from...
Yeah, I think you may have to speak up. I don't know whether it's the thing about people who do podcasts and low-tone conversation.
Oh.
Chill one, right? Yeah.
Chill.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we're getting feedback that we can't hear you, so...
Yeah, so like I was saying, money is the root of our problems. Another thing is... which, like I say, I think every problem we will speak about today is connected to money. But, you know, just having personnel, people who understand the job, understand podcasts, working with you on your podcast to help you push your podcast out there. It's hard to find people like that. For me, those are the two main challenges. Yeah.
What about? Okay, there's more. What about?
Yeah, there's more.
Yeah,
So there's
I
more.
also want to add something,
Yeah.
actually.
So I'll let Afi go then.
Yeah, with respect to how when we even started this, it's a growing field in Ghana. So we are learning on the job with respect to so our podcast is both audio and video, and it makes it more difficult because we have to edit the video and then we have to edit the audio. So what kind of
I feel your pain.
Angle is good? What kind of cuts should we have? What is important? What isn't? It's very complicated because you are learning on the job. And in as much as you want everybody to listen to the podcast, you still have to realize that you are in Ghana. So you are trying to make it appealing to the Ghanaians. So you have to find that balance of, this is interesting, but at the same time, a Ghanaian can relate to it and someone outside the country relates to it. So yeah, money is the root, but even with equipment, what kind of cameras are you using? What kind of lighting are you using? Your audios, are you editing it right? Because, I mean, none of us here went to sound school or engineer. We are learning on the job. I feel like that's the main issue.
I'll let Joseph go then.
Okay, well, different things. When we began was getting people to talk to me because I just show up at Republic and I'm like, hey, can I ask you a question for my podcast? Who are you? What is the you know? Yeah. We had to fight through that, so I had to start with my friends. So if I go out, I'll ask my friends, and then maybe if people see what they are doing, and then you go to them, it's easier. Another thing is, you know, we are doing this and it's content and everything, but we need money, and we always try to go to brands.
That's the guy who just received a lot of cash from.
We'll be talking about that.
We'll be talking about that. Listeners, viewers,
Allow cash out.
He made a lot of money from
Star Wars.
No, let me not say he made a lot of money. He got support,
backing.
financial
the
backing
podcast,
from
not me. The podcast.
the podcast got a lot of
also an aspiring
financial backing and support from Spotify, right? Or,
yes,
we'll talk about that bit. But you finish with the problem, which we don't believe you.
It is
That
a
you are
problem
facing.
because, you know, sometimes you want to do live events, you want people to come and do ads on there so that you can at least make some money to do some of the things that you want, and nobody seems to get it. You know, they ask who is Joseph Nti, what is the podcast? Oh, come back if maybe Jackie Appiah is hosting a podcast, then we'll give you money. You know, things like that. So it's been very difficult to get brands and partnerships to work. And then when we start, no, it's true. And then when we started doing interviews too, oh my goodness, it's so hard to get Ghanaian celebrities to either read the emails that you put an email bio there, and we send you a nice email saying we'd like to interview you, blah blah blah. Nobody reads it. DM, nobody reads it. It's so difficult. So
the culture.
Yeah, because people on social media will be like, "Oh, Joseph, interview Jay Foley," and they don't know that I've sent Jay Foley a message 2 months now. You know what I mean? Yeah, so those are some of the challenges.
I think co-signing everything that has been said. Yeah. But I think for us starting out, there were some unique peculiarities to Ghana that we kind of had to figure out. Starting audio file size. When you mix a master, you want to export as large as possible because you retain quality. But then Accra or Ghana has this unique situation where your data size affects the number of listens and downloads. So we kind of had to play around to find that sweet spot where we could have our file as small as possible, but then also be as good as possible, because you want people listening to the podcast and go like, I'm listening to Sincerely Accra, Kwame did a good job, I can hear Joseph clearly, I'm listening to Free Your Mind, this worked. Another thing also is, you asked this question a bit earlier, internet penetration and smartphone. Right now, in terms of delivering a podcast, if you don't have a smartphone, it's kind of difficult to listen to. At least with radio, you still do have the shortwave, so you still have FM. I don't know if AM is still around, but you can listen with your battery-powered device. Yeah. If you don't have a smartphone, it's going to be very difficult for you to access or listen to the shows on our network. So these are some of, I guess for us as a network, more network-wide issues that we kind of pay attention to and are trying to figure out how to maybe, not necessarily solve, but kind of like a slapstick solution. How do we just put together a solution that kind of makes it work, but ultimately it's going to be some level of investment in the space. So not necessarily into GCR or individual shows, but then the industry as a space growing up and being well supported, and then these things become less of challenges and be hopefully small hurdles that we can just jump and on to the next one.
Interesting.
How big are you on collaboration? Because it's a digital platform, right?
Yeah.
Which means the world doesn't matter.
True.
You could be pushing it in China for all we care.
That's true.
Right. I listen to Ben Shapiro's podcast. I listen to Joe Rogan. I listen to a bunch of far right.
Yeah, just to get a sense of what
stuff. I'm a conspiracy nut, so I'm.
This one is far right. This one is far left.
I'm deep in on that side, right?
Yeah.
And look, I'm in the back of Accra somewhere, tuned in. I'm adding to their million listeners. So I'm thinking, how do you guys go about collaborations, outreach beyond the core mandate? Because I would love to know what it's like to be in Accra.
Yeah.
And Staybyplan.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not in Accra, so far as it's a thrilling and engaging experience that you're putting across. So I want to know how much you are actively pushing for it to go beyond your core listenership here, and if there are any plans or any attempts have been made previously, and any milestones as well.
Quick response. There's a saying, a prophet is known
as his
home. Well, it's not known, but I think that the asterisk with our correction for podcasting would be is known in his own hometown. Before you can reach out, you can collaborate, that's possible. And we do have shows that have reached out to 1 or 2 random people outside of Ghana. And one thing COVID helped with was that we're able to more focus on remote recording. So now I can hop behind the computer, get Jay on the other side. All he needs is, even a regular earpiece works. We can make the audio work. It's not going to be studio quality, but we can make it work, and the listeners understand. However, in terms of trying to push, because if I reach out to, let's say Jay is let's keep it simple, it's in South Africa, and we are reaching out to him to collaborate on a show. First thing he's going to do is, what's your show about? He's going to probably check the socials. He's probably going to ask what the listenership is. And then that informs his response to some degree. So podcasts in Ghana would still have to build their audience, build their base, and then use that as a platform to reach out, because you want people in Jay's mention saying, hey Jay, I think you should go talk to these people because they are pretty cool, and that has the show in his radar. Because you ask him, he's going to ask his friends, let's say you guys are in South Africa, Charlie, these guys are saying Sincerely Accra or this show, I should go on. Have you heard of them? Never heard of them. At that point, it's not going to be him rolling the dice as to whether he wants to go on or not. So we still need that #GH support, and then that becomes a platform which we roll out with.
Yeah. Let me ask you on with regards to, we mentioned internet penetration and internet availability and costs. And so what is the average length of your podcast, or a podcast should be, so that you don't get people too bored or too much asking for more? What is the average length like?
So when me and Zoo started the podcast, I remember very clearly that I told Zoo that I don't want the podcast to be 1 hour, because me personally, if I see any audio that is 1.00.0, forget it, I'm not listening. So at first we started keeping it very sweet at 30 minutes, but as time has gone, we now hit we've actually done 1 hour before, but now on average it's about 15 minutes. And that's because our listeners were like, oh my God, the episode was so short, we wanted more. So the only reason why we extended it a little bit was because that is what our listeners wanted. So right now it's like 50 minutes.
Talking about the recent YouTube making itself more visible, in Ghana now. Did you have any chance of working, because you touched on collaborations, and how did it benefit off if you partook in anything they did, and how are you using their platform as well to amplify yourself and connect?
Well, Zoo, Afi, and I got selected by YouTube to go and see the Global Citizen Festival, VIP style. They were at Kwale's, and they brought in influencers from all over Africa.
You've been chilling.
I mean, we're finally getting some of the perks. Yeah, so we met Josh Too Funny, Lasizwe, all these
Okay,
guys.
we have it on the screen as you. Yeah.
Oh wow! You guys work fast. Yeah, so we were able to meet them, and the funny thing is that they also do podcasts and stuff like that. So we've made connections, and we plan to leverage on it to be able to do collaborations in different places as well. So that was very important. And we also had like a session where they taught us about YouTube Shorts, how the revenue is going to be coming in, how to make money. So yeah.
Yes. What was the experience like? You also plugged in with them, right?
Yeah. We're there as well. Amazing experience. It was only for 2 nights, but it felt like a week. It was amazing. Yeah. But by the end of the weekend, I was tired. But it was an amazing experience.
How were you selected? And what was the experience like? Did you get anything from it?
Because Cryril is not understanding why
we got an email.
We can't be doing this.
I got an email.
All kind of nonsense.
I got an email. I didn't even think it was serious.
Out of the blue, right?
Yeah. I didn't think it was serious. And then I got a call from the UK.
Yeah.
And right now, all these like numbers that I've been calling. So I didn't pick. And then I picked the second time. And they were like, hey, listen, reply to this email. So and so. And even when they said they were going to house us at Kwale, I was like, I live in Accra. I can just come. They're like, no. So it was just an email. I don't know what they saw.
Did the mail go to spam?
No, it came straight.
It was just unread because he's skeptical.
I read it, but I was like,
I don't know about you, but personally, even my personal email self, I get lots of emails from also, and it seems so legit, but I just know that no, this one there. So I thought it was one of those ones like.
Did you earn anything from that interaction? Global Citizen, YouTube, and maybe even in opportunities, leverage, barter?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That's what I would
for
say.
sure.
Opportunities, and also meeting the other creators.
Yeah.
Because even the video that I did for the Global Citizen on Instagram got over 20,000 views.
Yeah.
Because of all these people being in it. So definitely that's what we gained out.
There's a lot of content creators on social media, funny video guys, skits, bloggers, blah blah blah, right? But they weren't called up. So let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah, I mean, people have been dancing.
People are putting in work, but like on a day to day, and they weren't called up.
I mean, I should say that I have a YouTube channel, and I used to have a show that was big. It's called Off the Top. It was a trivia show. We have 6 seasons of it.
I've seen Off the Top with the colorful font.
Yes. So if let's say YouTube was actually, and they are fully video on YouTube. So if maybe YouTube was looking at people that put stuff on YouTube, maybe that could be it. Yeah.
There's a platform thing. The other people might have not been on
YouTube so much. Yeah, possibly.
Okay, but looking at content forms, right? How are you capitalizing on each one? Now, everything is different. Instagram is all about Reels. You post a picture, it's baller.
Yeah.
Right? It's about Reels. TikTok is still dancing. Snapchat's still alive. How do you incorporate all these platforms to draw market towards your podcast? Because you're an audio platform, right? And where do you host? First of all, you need to be you're on Apple Podcasts, you're on Spotify. Where are you? That's first. And then how do you connect all these platforms to it?
Oh, sorry, I guess it's me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we are on all the audio, so Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, all of them. One of the beauties of podcasts is once you have your RSS feed, it's easy to plug into all these different spaces, so that's taken care of. The other platform that you mentioned is a pretty interesting one because similar to touch on what Zu and Afi kind of said, these platforms have their own unique languages, and one thing you kind of realize is sometimes you can't have one content fits all. So an ideal would be you are recording this session right now. It's going out as audio. The full clip is going out as YouTube. We cut 1 minute for Reels, and then we cut 30 seconds for TikTok, and then we do 15 seconds for Snapchat. That's the ideal. But like you're saying, TikTok has a different audience base. So does that mean that after we are done with this session, we all stand by J Foley and do a fun dance so that we get a TikTok video? Snapchat is a different kind of feel. So does that mean that after we are done, we do that? So, and that now becomes, I need a team. Because if it's just a collective of people who are now primarily focused on the recording and the editing, Charlie, now they come ask me to make I do TikTok. Now they come ask me to make I run my Snapchat. That's one person. Mind you, you have your own personal social media handle accounts that the creators are managing. And then you have your show accounts that you're also trying to leverage and get traffic to. Again, this is something that we are doing out of passion. So at some point, it's an ideal. It's something that we are working towards. But then it's going to have to be, as we've mentioned, resources coming in, and then all of that coming in.
Okay, so let's switch this up a little bit. I mean, this is the business we are talking about. It sounds exciting, you know, but I just want it to be as relatable as possible to... I want stories. We mentioned, you know, Cyril was talking about stories. I want experiences, real fun moments in your production and the, you know, the conversations. Then that dovetails into some of the topics that gets you the most traction, you know. So I want to hear from all of you. The stories. Some of the most amazing stories and conversations you have. Audience reaction. What did people say? How did you interact amongst yourselves as well?
I'll pass it to Afi after this, but I just have one story.
She did something, eh?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of stories because we meet a lot of people. Every episode is with a different person, so every episode is different. But there was this one episode that we had. I don't want to say his name, but this guy came late, and Afi was supposed to go for a party. And at the party, Thames was at that party.
Okay.
And because this guy came late, we had to record late, and she missed the whole party. I think was stressed. What should I still go? I don't know what to do. I was like, oh god. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you don't really have guests that often, but your guests, I don't know if your guests come late, because for us that's a problem that we have, and I can't stand it. Personally, I cannot stand it.
And yeah,
do you think it's disregard? It's just a podcast,
especially with the musicians. Yes.
Hi. Yes. I think it's a Ghana man.
I was going to ask
I don't think it's disregard,
especially time for you guys.
Well, yes, they have to
because you guys go live.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'll show up when they show up.
they come early. They try. I mean, you guys came early, so you know it's good. Yeah, most of these stories, yes,
it's because of the live thing. Yours is live, so I they just feel like, oh, Charlie, they come, I did on the way. Like that's how it is.
Yeah.
So with respect to interesting stories, so we had Joey on the podcast, and he spoke about how his girlfriend broke his heart. And the whole, almost like 80% of the podcast was his life story with the girl, how they broke up, how he forgot he had a girlfriend, and that's the reason why they broke up. And that video blew up because everybody's exactly.
He did what? Where?
He said he forgot he had a girlfriend.
Joe.
So when she called him and she was like, it's over, he was like, a girlfriend. Yeah, so that was like really funny.
Wow, that's interesting. I can imagine. Joe B will always give you something to just laugh about.
So we did like a snippet of that and put it on TikTok, and it's one of like the most popular videos we have on TikTok. Yeah, and then we spoke to talkative mom, Eno. She talks about like lifestyle, very open about motherhood, and she spoke about the process of childbirth, which is something that they never really talk about in Ghana. And she talked about how, like, if the baby isn't coming out, they will take something and cut. So that was also very...
Are you ready?
Next question.
This is the podcast.
So yeah, all these different conversations with different people, they say certain things that like you wouldn't hear on the average day. Is what really brings the traction. And for us, TikTok, funny enough, Zu started a TikTok. We were on Instagram, YouTube, everywhere else. And Zu was like, we should be on TikTok. And I'm like, okay. And he was just posting the videos there randomly. And now TikTok is one of our biggest platforms because people even think it's a TikTok podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. So back to what he was saying about how often do you release stuff. At least we have our TikTok where we have snippets coming out almost like 4 times a week. So people are able to see snippets and eventually they are able to like be pushed to listening to the podcast or like going on YouTube.
Okay, I want. Yeah, sorry.
No, Jay, go.
And I want more stories.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. This is like a PG show. What?
No.
Okay.
I don't know because we do vox pops. Like the very first vox pop we did was how long a man should last in bed, and I remember
How long a man should last in bed.
And
No, I'm actually asking you.
I mean,
Consensus say.
well, I mean,
What does the consensus
when
say?
you take away foreplay, I think the average time should be 15 minutes. That's what I think. Wow. Yeah. But a lot of people were saying some really ridiculous things. People were
You
like,
know, all the girls in the production
Big
room are giggling in my ear.
no, but people were going on saying,
Why he does 30?
That's what
How
they
would you
call
know?
him Big Joe. I mean, that's
Oh,
They call him Big Joe.
Big Joe, like
All right, Big Joe.
Jay, so as I was
I have a
saying,
question.
yeah.
It seems like podcasts are more or less conversational.
Oh, Cyril, wait, no. I beg you, wait.
No, you do it.
Want
I
to
want
get
to
to
leave
the
the question
15.
Okay.
on the stove to be brewing. Then when he's done telling us about 15 minutes or more, we can talk about it. Like, I don't know if you guys remember By the Fireside,
Oh, yes.
or if I'm too old.
Oh,
Thank
no.
goodness.
I don't remember.
So,
No, we remember.
yeah.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Okay, Jay. Well,
Pimp
we'll bring
nah.
the Cerelac soon.
You know,
Well, to be fair, when you're thinking about Twitter, inventing Facebook, and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of
he's
that,
busy.
You are busy.
There's a lot on his
Thank
mind.
you very
We
much.
know.
No, thank you very much.
By the Fireside was a podcast.
Yeah.
Agree?
yeah.
It was literally the old
Audiovisual.
A
lady.
recorded conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that, you see, that spoke to traditional values and was trying to actually impact a way of thinking and behavior. I've heard a lot of what you've spoken about right now, and it's entertainment value, it's vox pop, it's trying to get one-liners, trying to get leads in to get people interested. Do you have anything that has that By the Fireside foundational thinking, or do you plan to do anything like that? Because Charlie Townspaul, there's still the need to have that positive impact, regardless how woke we are being. And one thing that I've seen lacking on the podcast, like Cyril, I follow all this. One thing that I see lacking big time is that foundational element of somebody actually trying to fix what we can all see is wrong. The same way By the Fireside used to come on broad TV and say, this is wrong.
These are the morals. Yeah.
Don't do this, do that. Nobody's being bold enough in the podcast space. And you guys being the front runners here, YouTube, Global Citizen, all that, the world is watching you. I really want to know if you're considering that, and if not, why.
Two quick responses. I believe Sincerely Accra, Kwame and Joseph have sort of taken to that tone. The last 2 months have seen Ghana, Accra go through. Yeah, so we are still processing and reeling from it. But in terms of taking a stance and just speaking to what the issue is, Sincerely Accra has been doing that in the last couple of episodes. Now, specific to what Cryril has spoken about, you and I have had private conversations. And you see, the challenge what you are requesting is it requires a level of audio production, and that is where, again, you winning the award for Africa Whisperer comes in, because it's a level of skill and resources to pull that off. We can't just have anybody come into the studio talking to a mic and just say, and Kokanansi did this, so don't do this. There is a depth to storytelling with audio that requires you adding on multiple elements. And I think as more people learn about this space, more people now become interested, aware, they then figure out, okay, so maybe this is what is dominating the space. Maybe I can come in from the left or from this side. As a network, these are things that we also do consider, because it means we get to have more options for people. Because people listen to podcasts, I listen to Joe Rogan, I listen to this. Oh, is there any Ghanaian podcast? Then they discover a podcast. And then once they listen to this podcast, I want more, they listen to other podcasts. For us as a network, we see podcast listeners elastic. So once I listen to a podcast, doesn't mean I won't listen to any other podcast. So the goal now is, we are firmly set with this. How do we get other creators in and provide other multiple ones? To that effect, we started a podcast this year, Staying Alive, with Dr. Mary Eshen. I think she's the principal of GIS, and that's more geared towards parenthood. She has grown adult children, and it's her talking to her age mates about raising children, and it's a different level of vibe, because it's nice our parents talking about their life, dealing with us, and all of that. So it's now being intentional about hitting these various segments. How do we hit the pensioners? Like, they're about to retire, they are home. What does content for them sound and look like? But again, that's where you need a Cryril with that audio production and resources to tell that story. So it's at the back of our minds, but it's all about sometimes spacing yourself and doing what you can, and then taking that next step. Sorry, Joe.
Well, okay, add on to it.
Well, I just want, so I worked as a teaching assistant in a university for a
Don't
while.
forget about how long a man should last in there.
Okay, I'll get back to
I'm
that.
actually coming to
That's
that
what
again,
he
yes.
was prideful.
Yeah, I did. And what I've realized is that delivery is very different now. You know, you can't have the same Mami Dokno approach. Delivery is very different. So we do a lot of education on my podcast. We're very plugged in, like I said, to the entertainment industry of old and now. And so I do a lot of, references. When I listen to a new song, Kwame and I are really good with that. We can tell you that, oh, this thing sounds like this, sample this. So we do that. And then also, a lot of social conversations that we have is necessary. We don't just talk about how long a man should last in bed. We've asked fresh graduates, how much do you think you should be earning when you get out of school? And it gives you perspective. And then now people start, so that's how we kind of blew up on Twitter, because now there's a conversation. People are like debating. And then it just adds to public discourse. And people know, first of all, what the base is, what you're not supposed to accept. Things like that. So we have like a variation of conversation that's affecting. It's not always just entertainment. Of course, the delivery is funny because that's how you get people to pay attention to a 1 hour podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask about the localizing, the content, but anyway, you're going to say.
I want to add basically the same thing for us. In as much as we are having fun and talking about Joey B's breakup and everything, we've had different episodes where we talk about relevant topics for the youth. We've had one on financial literacy before. We've actually had one on mental health before. That was with Adoma Music. So she opened up about her story and why she has been off the radar for a while. And she was basically going through depression and some other things that people don't actively talk about. And then we even had a medical practitioner there to guide the conversation so that it's not just like, oh, I think when you are depressed, you should do this. We had someone giving us the facts. And recently, we even had a conversation on sickle cell, which is something that is not even spoken about in the everyday Ghanaian home. So as much as we are having fun, we try and have these relevant topics so that the youth listen and learn from these things and know that, okay, if my boyfriend is AS and I'm AS, maybe we should consider breaking up or knowing that we cannot have a child because we are risking having a sickle cell child.
Yeah.
So we try and have these conversations as well.
Interesting. Well, some tweets coming in here. I chanced on Sincerely Accra podcast early this year, which I haven't told us about the money yet. And I loved it instantly, though I haven't been able to keep up with it. The guys are doing a great job and always refreshing and listening. That's coming from Mr. Berry. This was also very interesting. It says, I have interest in this entertainment space, but can't honestly get connected to people with similar interests. So how do people connect with you guys? Because you're receiving so many tweets and comments, and
DMs
so how
are
do you...
Yes, social media.
Because you also have to create opportunity for people.
Yes, social media. For me, I don't know, people assume that when you're a little bit popular, you don't read your DMs or something. I reply to every single time I reply to a random person, they're like, hey, you reply.
Try being Sarkodie or Shatawa.
The money has not changed you. we are happy to know.
Yeah,
We haven't lost you yet.
You have not. But the thing is, when you are listening to somebody for 5 years, you feel like you know the person. Yeah. So people enter my DM with energy like they know me. They don't, like, people don't DM me on some, oh, hi. They are legit talking to you. So it's very easy. And then, like I say, anytime I go out, especially like nighttime, people just walk up to me and talk to me. People say, oh, I want to be on a podcast or blah, blah. So we've had, like, we did a segment where we had, like, all girls come and talk about dating and then all boys. And these are people that randomly...
So you have all these stories and you didn't say.
I mean,
Okay.
we were only at the beginning.
No, let's talk about the stories then now. Let's talk about the stories that, generates, considering the target audience, which stories, you're talking about the 15-minute man.
Yes, that was very interesting because a lot of people, I feel like sometimes you like to put on a show.
Yeah.
When I ask those questions in, like, let's say a crowd setting or whatever, people will be saying 2 hours, 1 hour, all those kind of things. And then when you ask somebody like isolated, they give you the truth and say, oh, me 10 minutes, 5 minutes. So, I mean, that's just an example of how...
What are you pointing to?
Oh, I didn't point to anybody.
when he did that, I went this way.
Exactly right.
I don't do that.
I did it. But I mean, another thing that was very interesting to me that happened, I think maybe the 3rd year, was I went to a restaurant. I was ordering food, and there was somebody standing behind me, and then she said, I know this voice. And I just looked at her quietly, and I kept ordering. She's like, this is Josephine T. The next thing I know, she called her sister on WhatsApp video and just put her phone in my face. It's like, look at who I'm here with. So those are also, it just shows you how plugged in people are and how much they appreciate the show. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a bit about money.
Okay.
I mean, then it comes to, how you were able to gather interest from Spotify to invest in your project, and then how you are also looking forward to, and how you generate money if you are making money, and the plans of turning this into a profitable business.
Okay, well, I think Spotify came to Ghana. Has it been 2 years or a year?
I think they came last year, right?
Yeah, and I think after their first month, they put out statistics on like the different things.
Music and podcasting.
Yeah, and Sincerely Accra was number 1. So that was like our first. Oh wow, we are the number 1 podcast on Spotify in Ghana. Cool. And then I think 2-3 months ago or so, we got invited to a media engagement dinner where they talked about some of the plans that they had for Africa in the different categories, music, podcasting, you know. And then after that, we got an email that just said that, you know, we'd been selected for the grant. Do we accept? That's the funny part. They're like, do you accept this? Like, we're going to say no.
We're still deliberating.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, we'll give you like, 2 days. Let us know if you want to do it. If you you have to fill this form. Yeah.
How fast did you fill that form, bro?
Oh, we did it at midnight. We even have a video because we did a call because Kwame is an American, my producer, and we like filmed it and then we recorded ourselves hitting send. And then they told us that we'd gotten it, but we had to keep quiet until they announced. So I think we knew for like about a week, right?
Yeah.
And we just waited.
Tough week?
For me, it wasn't tough.
Oh, it was a chill week. You were just at home.
Week.
Like,
I didn't know how people were going to take it.
So
Laid
this
back.
is a grant.
Yes.
Definitely, was it all paid into your accounts? Is it released in batches? What are the conditions of its use and all that? So we don't let people just get excited.
As typical with grants, it comes with stipulation. So as to
There's
when
a lot
the
of
investment and all of that, exactly. So it's very much tied to that. Yeah. So within the next year, we have KPIs that would have to hit.
What are you using? How are you supposed to use these funds?
To grow the podcast and also to... Spotify has been intentional. They do want to be the audio platform on the continent as well. And in identifying these African podcasters, they're also hoping to leverage their audience to also grow their platform. So it's going to be a combination of more Sincerely Accra goodness. So for sincerities, that's awesome. And then also Spotify also backing and pushing podcasting on the
Sorry, let me stay on you for a second real quickly.
Problem.
So in you know when funds come in and like we said, it comes with all its things they do some, the IMF of this business. Does that in any way influence or affect the kind of content that you're going to put in now? Because now maybe in because of collaborations and all, there are things they might not want you to say, do.
I think without revealing too much of what we've agreed to, Spotify have been a very excellent partner. The content as to the direction of the podcast isn't going to change. Anything that we put out going forward is going to be what Sincerely Accra and GCR have agreed to. So on that end, I can say that, nothing is going to change. It's just an infusion of cash. Say again.
How much?
Say that again.
How much?
Say that again.
Jacob,
Jenipa and Glepa?
We cannot disclose the amount.
Oh, okay. You can't.
It's part of the NDA.
I had $100,000. So.
That's the total grant that they're giving.
And how long is this deal? Is it a year, 2 years, 5 months?
On average, it's going to last a year, just because there are different podcasts with different seasons. So everybody is at different stages of accepting the grant. It just lacks us for that Sincerely Accra starts the next season next year. So for us, we'll carry over the season. Yeah.
Charlie, just blow the door.
They can't find it in Accra.
Spotify aside, right? This goes to you. How are you positioning the content in such a way that these international bodies also can kind of spotlight you on the radar? I know there's a large Ghanaian audience in the diaspora, right? Like, apart from the girl who called her sister on WhatsApp, I'm sure there's a few thousands more.
Yeah.
Many tens to hundreds of thousands more. How are you targeting those so that it's like Accra-based podcast?
Yeah.
But the message resonates with everybody, because I feel like we have creatives in Ghana do a lot of great stuff, but we don't. It's all here. It's all one corner.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately for us, in 2022, we have social media in the palm of our hands. You know what I mean? So that's the driving force behind us reaching, say, because if it wasn't for social media, YouTube, Spotify, they wouldn't know any of us. You know what I mean? So that's for us. That's the main thing. We're just always trying to put it out there on social media. And with regards to reaching out to the diaspora, we've spoken to Mandy Saru. She came to Ghana for the YouTube conference. Let me call it that.
The Creators Conference.
Creators Conference, yeah. And she's a big YouTuber in Kenya. We had her on the podcast. We spoke to her about experience there, experience being a food creator and so on. we speak to people in the Ghanaian diaspora as well when they come to Ghana. So, okay, you've come to Ghana, do you want to move here? You know, people always want to say, oh, I want to move back to Ghana. And we're like, everybody in Ghana is like, we want to come to your side, you want to come here. So we have those types of conversations all the time. So we are able to reach people in Ghana, of course, because we are in Ghana. And, at the same time, we're reaching people in the Ghanaian diaspora. When we check our stats, I'm sure it's the same for you guys. We're seeing like France, Saudi Arabia, like Japan, like some strange countries. I'm like, Ghanaians today, they're like, what's going on? You know what I mean? So people are really listening all over the world. So for us, social media is the main way that we reach people outside here.
Okay.
I also like to add, Joseph is already leveraging on Twitter Spaces. We haven't done that yet. So we've been having conversations about how that would be great for us, especially since it's easier to have a conversation with someone who's in a different country on Twitter Spaces as compared to, let's do a podcast and then now we are trying to virtually record. So we are trying to have collaborations with creators in other countries. I mean, baby steps. We'll start with Ghanaians in other countries and then we'll try and leverage on that and then move out with our Twitter Spaces, and then we also started doing vlogs. So, I mean, if we get to travel, if you guys give us money to travel.
Jay with the social media platforms.
I actually helped Elon Musk buy Twitter.
Really?
But the deal was that we're just trying to create a new one. So,
how much of the 44 billion was yours?
One
of the billions.
Yes, one of the billions. But you guys speak all this and make it sound so full time, and there's a lot of work in it. But you did mention in the beginning that these are you do these things on the side. So I want to understand the time balance, and because it's a lot of work to do this and combine with if you engage with other things, with living.
I have a quick response. I think Afeku could identify with this. When we first started, we put our episodes every week. Yeah. So essentially our schedule was, we went to the studio on Saturday, everybody recorded, and then got edited on Sunday, and then everything got put out. I lost my social life, and I'm still recovering, essentially, because it was a year where Donald and I just couldn't make any commitment unless it was a marriage or something. Actually, I missed a friend's marriage.
Wow.
Donald went, I stayed in the studio. Just because recording had to happen and we were bound by our schedule. So it does get intense. It is full time. And I think when you listen to people, especially fellow Ghanaians, putting out podcasting, there's a lot of work and love and passion that's being put in. It's full time. It's not paid as much, but it really is full time.
What about you?
Joseph, you have something to say? Yeah, okay. So for me, it goes as far back as high school because I was in like so many extracurricular activities and I was also doing school. So I think I've been learning about multitasking for a while now. Yeah. But how I see my life is I have a 9 to 5, then I get home, and then at 8 p.m. I work on my other creative stuff till like midnight. So we have a lot of meetings on like content. I used to just go on there and record. Now I actually have to script some of my jokes and things like that because the pressure is on.
The pressure is getting worse.
The pressure is getting worse, and I feel like I now have to be funnier. We have an event coming up, Mosaic on 26th November. I'm going to be on stage, so I've started writing my jokes, editing videos. So basically, 9 to 5, then 8 till midnight, I'm editing videos and stuff for the show, and then on Saturdays we record in the studio. So I only have Sundays free to myself, unless they say, Sunday.
So for you, this is almost like full time now.
It is.
Okay.
I have to.
Oh, is it the same across to everyone?
Yeah. So I'm like Joseph. I also have a 9 to 5. So you do that, and then we usually record on Sundays. But sometimes if the guest can't come on a Sunday, immediately from work, you see me with my big bag. I have to go and change in the studio, and then we record. So yeah, it's definitely stressful. And like Cyril said, you sacrifice time with friends and family. Like sometimes the parents are like, "Hey, you every day you're going out." Kind of stuff. But it's like we have the passion.
The job is the job.
The job is the job, Charlie. Like I can't let my 9 to 5 enjoy my podcast suffer and vice versa. So you have to sacrifice the time.
So assuming things pick up financially on the monetary side,
the answer is yes, Cyril. Next question. I got to do long. The answer is yes.
I hope you guys are connected into the whole year of return, the Christmas, the diaspora, all that coming in, because you see, I invented Facebook. All that's happening because you literally have the potential to blow up your audience, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you have plans for that? Do we have any way where we are seeing Staybyplan Okay, the way she's pushed the mic, then I jumped the gun.
Bad pressure.
Bad pressure.
Yeah, for sure. These guys are about to have an event this month. We are also working on an event probably late December or early January. Still working on it. So for sure, we are just trying to create enough awareness while people are in the country, because some of the people in the country are the people who make these decisions to be giving out thousands of dollars and things. And me, I would also like some thousands of dollars. I was changing my phone and things. So you know what I mean? So yeah, we are just trying to like position ourselves properly, go for the right events, meet the right people, and then just kind of like spread the word with the podcast, you know, collaborate with people, other podcasts, you know, even beyond podcasting. So yeah, that's what we are trying to do for December. Yeah.
I think I'm identifying the December events that have a lot of social capital to see if I can be there, not as somebody enjoying the show, but in the capacity of like media, because I do Vox Pop, so I'd like to.
So you're talking about Wilderland.
Is that happening this year? I don't. Oh, okay. Well, other shows, are you promoting for them?
Wilderland? Yeah, no.
Yeah, so
you're the scripter. You said, you know, a good show, lots of diversity, entertainment.
Yeah. So an opportunity to either interview like the guests, the artists and stuff, or you know, people that attend, and to create content for the page. Because if you manage to put somebody on your page, they will share it, and before you know, their friends from America and everywhere will also follow them. So
definitely.
So recently, the president shared Kirani Ayat's, his video was captured in the video reel that the president shared to boost or promote tourism in Ghana. Do you have any instances or issues of copyright, you know, with the content you create and, you know, putting people's faces out there, and, you know, all those things? Yeah.
You mentioned you use a lot of music. Tsegah 2000.
Yeah. Kwame has like a lot
Nobody has
of
knocked
music
on your doors yet.
So what we usually do is we talk to people sometimes, because sometimes we want the actual, I think they call it stems, right?
Yeah.
They call it stems. So Kwame handles all of that. We always make sure that, you know, and what we also do is, because we play a lot of Ghanaian music, we allow people to send us music. So we have a lot of new artists up and coming. They send us music, and then the ones that Kwame likes, he puts on there. So even though we play a lot of the old music, we also have some new music that is sent to us by the artists themselves. So.
And also for us, just like Sincerely Accra, music is the backbone of our podcast as well. When we started season 1, we used to, at the end of every episode, we'll ask the guest, what song are you feeling right now? What do you want the listeners to go and listen to? And then they'll tell us, then we'll put it on the end of the episode. And then one day, I just decided to like go and read the terms and conditions. I said, that'd be like our first step. We have to stop adding people's songs to the end of our podcast, you know what I mean? So now we just say, this song by this person, you guys, when you go and listen to it, open your Spotify, open your Apple Music, go and listen to it. So yeah, we are trying to be more conscious of like copyright, because one day you can't just be there and then someone just take everything away from you just because you played one song, you know what I mean? So we are really aware of that.
Okay, so let me just be a bit political here. As a representative of the sitting government, and also a rep for the opposition party, and also a co-rep for the other political parties that are not in parliament. Who hasn't been officially hired by any of them. I want to find out, yes, we always put pressure on government agencies to create an enabling environment for, you know, creators to be able to coexist. But have you guys in any way approached any of these agencies, you know, to have discussions on things? Because, for example, I mean, there's December in Ghana coming. I've seen a tall list of events that the Ministry of Tourism and Motag has shared, but I haven't seen anything that speaks to content creators being able to also amplify the experience online, you know, because it is on our platform that we talk about those things for free and people watch it, and then the credits just go back to the ministry and say, we did it. But have there been that kind of
as a rep to the government?
Yes.
What else?
Unofficially, who has
unofficially unemployed.
Actively checking in.
Yeah.
What I would say is we probably have one or two decks in an email and maybe hand-delivered sitting at the Ministry of Tourism somewhere. So maybe if you go and you open some cabinets, you might see...
Oh, you've been sending...
So you've tried to reach out to the ministry.
We have tried. And I think it's one of those things where when we first started, it literally was, we were podcasting, so we're just like barreling through. We do try to be intentional in terms of leveraging partnerships and reaching out. But the reality in Ghana is, in as much as people do speak to collaboration and partnership, they really aren't about that until they feel there's something for them to gain from you. That's just the honest reality. So for us, GCR, we kind of have to be very intentional about creating this space and carving out what we want to do. So when you speak to events, back in 2017, we had, 2019, I think we had the first live podcast in Ghana, West Africa, I think. This was our front back. Then COVID happened. Then we repositioned that into Mosaic as Nubuki. And this year we are doing this again. This is us now creating a platform for our show hosts to go on stage and speak to a live audience. We're not waiting for anyone to come and do that for us. It's us leveraging the relationships we have to build that. This year, we are actually bringing on a music act, and I think I can share today we have Baba J, Juma Mufasa, and Reynolds performing. Because our thinking is, you know what, if we are going through the trouble of having a venue and getting light, stage, and sound, we can also share that with people. So that's what we mean when we say we are being intentional, because we really do want to collaborate. And sometimes, yeah, that's the ad. Yeah. And sometimes you kind of have to show working. It would be amazing to have other people reach out to us and actually mean it, but sometimes you kind of have to do it yourself and eventually hope that you chance into people who maybe see the vision or on the same wavelength as you, and then we get that going.
Well, I think for me, I always see there was a quote that I saw from Issa Rae talking about how when you're in an industry, you should hold hands with people that are on the same level with you, because usually when you're trying to reach above, they don't look at you the same way. They think you are trying to benefit of clout or whatever. So, I mean, I've been on Zoo and Afi's live show. I always repost their stuff. We do our very best.
You invite us. This is racism.
As a
They didn't know that you were behind Twitter.
They will get there because, now, after having this conversation.
On the way to the washroom and has never
which
come
we
back.
didn't know. But after having this conversation, now the network has happened now, because I used to listen to Cyril. So this is like networking. But without knowing it is hard because there have been people that we've reached out to that we haven't heard anything from. So sometimes you're like, you know what, let's just look to ourselves and do our thing. I remember I tweeted saying that you never really see the importance of creatives to the government until it's time for voting, and they start doing all these dramas where they are saying votes. Now they see, but honestly, I don't see a lot of support from there.
Okay, so now that we've all been in agreement and helped you speak a lot about what you're doing, let me push you out of the comfort zone and let's start the argument in the last. We have about 10 minutes more, roughly 7 minutes more to go.
Let's do it.
Cryril mentioned something very important that we've just jumped for a second, and it talks about how you localize your content so that it's impacting, like by the far side. Brilliant content. It was podcast, yes. It had a national appeal, and yes, I wasn't there. I didn't watch some, but I'm just.
But you heard about it.
But I heard about it because I was doing Facebook. You understand? Your content that you create. Do you feel that it is so limited to a certain Accra Gen Z market, possibly watching from Spain, America, and not having that person who equally uses a certain smartphone that might not be as top notch as yours, who equally has access to internet, who's in faraway land in the back of Sunyani somewhere, who also shares interests, but unfortunately can't seem to connect with the things you're speaking about because they don't find themselves in the same space. They wake up to a different environment, different experiences, and they can't connect. One of the things I connected with when you said you guys speak in Tsegah, I love the idea. Do you feel that you are very comfortable in your space and you cover it up with challenge? This is our challenge. This is our challenge.
I'll let them go first.
Because I am looking at things that would get national attention. That it would get you a story from the borderline between Burkina Faso and Ghana for someone to be able to easily connect. And this also comes to the back of the person's tweets that, how do I reach you guys?
Yeah, so honestly, for us, for our podcast, it's really about the guests. It's centered. The conversations are centered on the guests. So it really depends on who we bring on the podcast. If, for example, we are bringing upper class people all the time, we will have an upper class audience only. But then we try to bring people from different. Like our next episode, which is out on Thursday, we have an Uber driver. So he's been on streets. He's gone through things. So if you are listening to it, and let's say he said he lives at. I had forgotten where he lives, but he lives somewhere. If you hear that, this place is, they're talking about this, my hometown or this thing on the podcast. Oh, okay, I rock with that. Let me check it out. So it's for us, I think it's about the guests. If, for example, like we said, we bring someone from Sunyani who's living at the back of something, and he comes on the podcast, he's going to go back to his people, yo, I was on this podcast in Accra, let's listen to it. This is what I talked about. And then we kind of reach people.
So how are you pushing yourself to be able to spread out so you can build all these new audience,
Yeah, so it's really, like I said, it's just about the guests. So we try to have a wide range of guests. We have people who are musicians. For example, if you have someone who's popular or famous, you get down there, you get people, all their fans to come and listen to it. But then even aside from that, we can have someone like Joseph who has his following. We can have the cleaner who works here. They will talk about it. There are people who listen to it. So for us, I think the only barrier that I see is access to internet, access to smartphones and those things. So, and then maybe that's where live shows and things can come in. But even then, there's still.
But the funny thing is, when you look at TikTok, right?
Exactly. Yes.
I would have thought that TikTok would come and will only be like purely Gen Z that about people on there. Where I buy my fufu, I buy my fufu, the lady there is on TikTok. Yeah. So I feel like we have a lot of reach with those that demographic as well. I think that I have a very well-rounded growing up. So I just try to be myself and then attract people that can relate to the things that I have been through and things that I see, and the people that we bring on as well. And so the guy in Tree will come, and so definitely that should be pull factors. There are a lot of people that actually say, "Oh, I like it when you speak Tree." I miss Tree because I'm in Germany, blah blah, something like that. So.
Yeah, and for us, we've also started doing vlogs. There was this time, so we have a photographer. Shout out to Nams. Me and her went to Kantamanto together to try and get clothes. So we decided to do a vlog. It's not yet out on the YouTube.
Can't wait to see
but yeah, we met one of the sellers. He sells jeans. And I was like, I know you, Tsegah. And I was so scared. I was like, who is calling my name? He can't. I was like, I know you. I listened to your podcast. And he showed me so it's part of the video as well. So that was amazing. And definitely it was like a sign that, this is something we should do. We should go out in the streets and then do the vlogs. But then again, it still comes back to the balance, because if you don't have a lot of people watching, there's no incentive for someone who is at the back end to use their 3 CDs bundle to watch your video or listen. Stuff, they need to feel like, oh, this is something that is worth it, or this is something that's interesting for me.
I think we owe it a responsibility to ourselves to be able to push Ghanaian. Push everything Ghanaian. Yeah. And I like we just watched your video, the promo.
Yeah,
you want to talk more about the event before we go? Our time is up.
Oh, I also want to just quickly add that that's something GCR looks to do, in that someone at Sunyani, not all our shows have to be Sincerely Accra. Not all our shows have to have all the listenership. We can have shows that just have maybe 100 or 200 people listening. But the fact that it serves a need, a community, because the beauty of podcasting is anyone who is passionate and can speak to an issue, you have that platform. And that's something we want to champion. Now, speaking quickly about our show, we have a live podcast show happening on November 27th at Nubuke. Tickets are 100 CDs.
Please, where is Nubuke? You people say people know. Me, I always see that somebody's watching.
I don't even know Nubuke. East Legon, down the road from Mensvik. Second left after the medical center.
You're in town.
Hey,
thank you.
Google Maps.
You're in town.
Bruh. Bro, Mami, I know town.
So,
that's my space, bro. No, she doesn't live there.
No, but seriously, guys, you should come and check it out, because the hosts like Joseph are playing an amazing live session. We mentioned the artists Baba J, Juma, Reynolds the Gentleman, and shout out to our lovely sponsors, Jameson. We have AfriPort, again, another Africa player in the podcasting scene that we're excited to introduce Ghanaians to. Aya Ticket, Ayame Dinkra, all of that. You guys should come attend.
Okay.
It's going to be a good one.
Well, our time is up. We have to go, but just one last question in one last minute. How long does an average man last in bed? I've got 30 seconds left.
Ask him how long
must an average man last in bed?
10 minutes.
5 on a bad day, 50 on a good.
34 minutes.
Let me skip.
That is oddly specific.
I'll come back to her. Yo, see, how long we for day?
For no day in bed.
So actually,
small day, won't be bad.
On that note, our time is up now, so we will back again. But thank you so much for being for joining us at this morning. It's been a very great conversation. I've learned so much from you guys. Trust me. I'm going to have a lot of conversations after this, with you guys, and I think that for me as well, I've also jumped into this space, so we'll see what's up. Thank you very much. Name is Jay. I'll be here with the man, Shot Town.
What's up, Cryril? We're out.
And we're out tomorrow.